Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today I have for you a layout process video based on my kit for the Counterfeit Kit challenge. And if you haven't seen my kit build video, I'll leave links for you. And this kit features a lot of wood grains and lots of sprinkly embellishments and some fun fiber ribbons. So we're going to see all those elements in today's layout. I'm going to start with this wood grain paper as the background. And this title is about my daughter and I doing some online craft events in the basement during a pandemic, and so I'm bringing out a lot of those elements. So the wood grain has a lot to do with the beams because our basement is unfinished, and you can see the open beams of the floor above us. And this watercolory paper I chose because it kind of has that wish-washy feel to it, which is kind of how the pandemic has made us all feel, and just trying to find our grounding in crazy world going on. And then I chose those cloud prints for the same kind of reasons, and I wanted to make sure I cut apart parts that actually showed the raindrops and not cover those up. And then I trimmed down my photo because I've been printing my photos lately with a white mat, and so I trimmed that mat down to a very small amount, and I'm backing it with black for nice contrast. And then I get to work on my layout. So this circle I'm actually only using part of, and I'm using some horizontal elements in addition to that circle as the main design elements on my layout. And here I am kind of temporarily tacking things down as I try to get all my proportions how I want them to be. Now that strip of stars I decided was too big, and so I trimmed it down a little bit just to be the stars. And this is the design principle called gallon, quart, pint, and I've heard it said other ways, but basically a small amount, a medium amount, and a larger amount. So I have that small amount of stars, medium amount of the clouds, and a large circle. So that is that design principle. And then I get to work on my title. And in this kit, I used a lot of silver tones and kind of cooler tones. And so that actually worked very well for this layout because it's an unfinished basement. All the ductwork is visible and it's silver metal, so that I thought worked beautifully for this layout, and I was very pleased with being able to make this work. And then here's where I start sprinkling my embellishments. Now I made these little embellishments here out of Nuvo drops, and I let them dry so that I could move them around how I wanted them to be, and that's in my previous kit build video. So if you like to play with Nuvo drops, again, go check out that link. And then I start building up my clusters. Now, at first I thought I wanted my title centered, but when I put it out, it was shifted to the left more. And I thought, okay, I'll go with that because that gives me room on the right to build up an embellishment cluster. Now you see me pulling out the vellum because I decided I wanted a little more texture to this layout, and I had the vellum built into my kit. And this is why I kind of temporarily tack things down, because as I change my mind building up layers, I can move them. And yes, it did tear my paper, but it's going back in mostly the same spot, so it's not going to be a big deal. And I added this vellum for texture and dimension, and also for storytelling reasons. It has, my daughter was working on butterflies, and the vellum texture is very soft and fluttery, just like butterflies are. So for all those reasons, I threw this in there, and I'm giving the edges a little bit of a curl, and then I decided that is going to do it for my layers. As I curl up all these edges, I get that photo to adhere over a bit of a lumpy element on my layout, and it worked out fine. And then I start building up my embellishment clusters. Now this set of embellishments has gold accents on it, and like I said before, I used silver in this kit, and I'm going to change that gold up towards the end of the video, and you'll see what I do with that. And now I'm just pulling out lots of embellishments to start adding to my clusters. And of course, I start with things that kind of make sense. So I've got a butterfly and some flowers because those two items go together. I pulled out a bird because of wings, and butterflies have wings. But I pulled out that little sweater chipboard piece too because we're in the basement and it's chilly down there, and we often need to pull out sweaters partway through working. And so it does make sense to my story when you look at it that way. And then I start sprinkling embellishments all around, and I do use a little journaling card for that bottom right cluster, again because that gives me the larger cluster of embellishments, a smaller cluster by my title, and then it will ended up being a medium cluster with that butterfly on the top right. And then I'm finding a few more bits and pieces here and there to tuck around. I've got some of these foliage little journal cards that are from Prima, and I added those in. And I start using those as a few more layers to the various cluster zones, and then I start sprinkling. And I'm gluing down all my sprinkly bits, and I won't make you watch me glue. With gluing accomplished, I turned to these ribbons that I have in this kit for more texture, and I went with this rickrack because the rickrack has an old-fashioned feel to it, and my basement is old, and so those two pieces seem to go well together. And of course, with it being white, it worked really well. So when I'm working with ribbons, I tend to stretch them across an element so that I can fold them and tape them down on the sides. And so I just went all the way across my layout and taped it down. And then I will add a couple spots of glue along the length of the ribbon just so it doesn't shift as I'm sliding things in and out of page protectors and whatnot. And that just kind of helps everything from catching and snagging as I put my layouts away later. And then guess what? I'm back to more sprinkling because this kit did have so many bits and bobs to sprinkle around. I am taking full advantage of that. And when I'm done with my sprinkling, I'm going to shift to changing those gold elements out. And I'm using the same Nouveau drops that I used to create the little puffy embellishments that I talked about earlier. And again, that tutorial's in the previous video. And I am just using this Nouveau product to cover straight over any of the gold elements that were on the previous that were on the embellishments already. And so that's a good way to alter things. If you don't like the color of something, change it up with some thick paint, paste, Nouveau drops, whatever, to change them up. And then when I noticed this little jacket had some black buttons on it, I decided to go ahead and shine those up with some Nouveau drops and change the buttons to silver as well. And that was just because. Just because. And there is the layout finished. I've got my journaling all filled in on the rest of that circle. And here are a couple of close-up shots of all of that. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got something helpful out of it, please do give it a like. It does help my channel. And I will be back on Friday with another process video from my previous kit build of based on the Chamel project. So I will see you then.